On this railway adventure, England's Iron Horse, the afternoon tea train, and the village that inspired Wuthering Heights, all on the Keihley and Worth Valley Railway. Hi, I'm Bernie Coppell. Just up the tracks, a locomotive made in the USA, still serving England, and the iron rails that fired the Industrial Revolution. Join me from Keihley to Oxenhope on railway adventures across Europe. After 95 years of faithful service, the Keihley and Worth Valley Railway fell silent. But thanks to the enormous efforts of a determined preservation society, the railway is now one of the most famous rail lines operating in England today. It has a fleet of 30 locomotives and a history that dates back over 100 years. On our railway adventure, we'll ride a thundering locomotive through Worth Valley on one of England's iron roads of the Industrial Revolution. We'll ride into history, to the age of steam and an era when Edwardian-style stations were lit by gas lamps. We'll depart from the industrial town of Keihley along the Worth River and stop at several stations with names like Ingrow West, Damon's, and Oakworth before reaching our final destination of Oxenhope. Stay with us as we explore the village where the Bronte sisters found inspiration to write their famous novels Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre, later made into movies. All aboard for Silence of the Iron Horse.
No one knows who first discovered the power of steam, but by the end of the 18th century, steam trains were moving people and freight throughout England. The Iron Horse, the name given to locomotives in the early age of railways, quickly developed into a mainstay of transportation. By the middle of the 19th century, it had blazed its way across Britain, delivering prosperity to cities and villages along its lines. On this railway adventure, we'll explore the Keihley and Worth Valley Railway, one of England's most famous lines still in operation today. Inhospitable moorlands or marsh wastelands form natural barriers between the English counties of York and Lancaster. Between the moors and the lowlands are fertile valleys which sprawl across the British countryside. The Worth Valley stretches southwest from the industrial town of Keihley in West Yorkshire and follows the River Worth into the Pennine Chain Mountain Range. These valleys in England provided a natural course for the iron rails that fired the Industrial Revolution. The Worth Valley heard its first locomotive steam whistle in November of 1866, and by April of 1887, a line through to Oxenhope was finally opened. But when England converted its steam locomotives to diesel in 1955, an era of transportation history ended. After 95 years of faithful service, the Worth Valley Railway fell silent. A group of local enthusiasts then formed a preservation society to save the steam railway from extinction in England. Thanks to the group's concentrated efforts, almost 102 years after the first opening ceremony, the Keihley and Worth Valley Railway triumphantly returned to regular steam service. In June of 1968, the railway celebrated a grand reopening and the first train steamed out of Keihley. From these modest beginnings, the service, run entirely by volunteers, now attracts more than 150,000 passengers a year from throughout the world, and many more visitors who just come to watch the steam trains thunder by. Our railway adventure on the Worth Valley Railway begins from the station at the northeast corner of the Keihley town center, where it shares the depot with British Rail mainline trains. We then wind our way southwest on an uphill climb toward Oxenhope. The Worth Valley side of Keihley Station was also abandoned for many years, but has been rebuilt since the branch reopened. A fresh coat of paint, a new restaurant, electric lights, and modern conveniences have all revitalized this historic building. The Worth Valley Railway uses platforms 3 and 4 at the station.
Train now approaching platform 4 is 10:05 to Oxenhope, calling at Oakwood, Howard and Oxenhope. This train will also call at Wuthering Heights and Dallas by request of the guard.
The steam locomotive, nicknamed Vulcan, steams into the station to collect its first group of passengers. The beautifully restored locomotive is a direct descendant of a model that once worked on the Worth Valley branch for many years. Built in 1924, this engine is one of the last survivors from the 420 locomotives that were originally built to serve the London, Midland, and Scottish railways. Number 47279 was among a handful found at a scrapyard in 1979. A small group of Worth Valley members created a fund to save the 060 locomotive. The 060 refers to the wheel configuration on steam engines. With passengers aboard, we depart from the railway's northern boundary, crossing the River Worth and passing through the industrial area of town toward Ingrove. For the first mile, the Great Northern Railway uses the same route for its Keihley to Bradford and Halifax branches. The first stop out of Keihley will be Ingrove West. The station building was originally constructed in the town of Fowleridge in Lancashire County. It was dismantled and transported to Ingrove, where it was rebuilt and stands today. Leaving the Ingrove station, the Worth Valley rail line will plunge into a short tunnel that separates the open valley from the narrow, steep hillsides. Shortly after we emerge from the tunnel, the line starts to climb swiftly, twisting like a snake alongside the River Worth. We'll pass Damon's, which is just a mile beyond Ingrove, and the smallest station on the line, quite possibly in the entire country. With just a tiny station house and a small platform, Damon's is only able to handle the loading or unloading of one coach at a time. Just beyond Damon's is one of the major construction accomplishments of the Worth Valley Company. A passing track was built after railway traffic began to outgrow the single line. Now, 2 opposite trains can operate simultaneously. Trains are controlled from a signal box that was opened in 1973. This hand-operated signal was originally installed at Oakworth and eventually moved to Damon's. As the train passes, tokens are exchanged between the signalman and engineer. Tokens are train orders and instructions identifying track conditions and train speed. Continuing to climb, our train enters a narrow cutting and emerges around a bend that leads on to Oakworth Station, or Stop as the British call their train stations. The station building at Oakworth provides a typical example of West Yorkshire station design and has retained its original look over the years. While most other stations on the line have been modernized, gas lamps, Edwardian posters, and a well-manicured garden all contribute toward the old-world atmosphere that is so well preserved at Oakworth Station. The historical preservation efforts at Oakworth Station were recognized in 1979 when it was awarded first prize in the Best Preserved Station competition presented by Sir Parker, chairman of British Rail. Just a short stop, though, and we're on our way again, headed to the town of Haworth. Traveling over the level crossing and out of Oakworth, the train passes a heavily wooded curve, then over a short bridge and into Mythholm's Tunnel. Once out of the tunnel, the train curves around a hillside and into Haworth. The station is also headquarters for the Worth Valley Railway Company. Like the Keihley and Worth Valley Railway, the English village of Haworth appears today as it has for over a century. This old village on a hill is famous primarily due to one family. It was in these surroundings the three Bronte sisters, Charlotte, Emily, and Anne, found inspiration for writing several books. The books Wuthering Heights, written by Emily, and Jane Eyre, written by Charlotte, were both made into well-known movies. Even more remarkable is that the sisters published in their own names at a time when women were forced to use men's names for fear their work would be ignored by society. You'll find a museum dedicated to the literature of the Bronte sisters in the parsonage opposite the village church. Pulling out of the Haworth station, our train will continue to climb gently. The tracks now pass through open country for the trip to Oxenhope. Over this section, the rail line follows the valley floor in an almost straight line. The engineer keeps a full head of steam in the vintage locomotive's boilers. One last curve, and the railway reaches Oxenhope Station at the northern end of the village. Though we've arrived at our final destination, our exploration of the railway has just begun. The Oxenhope train yard was run down and overgrown prior to restoration in 1968. Now there's a large covered museum where locomotives and coaches are on public display and the rail line is in operation. The yard also provides space for the maintenance and reconditioning of train cars. Even though the Keihley and Worth Valley Railway is not running the original locomotives and passenger cars, it still maintains a definite period look. The railroad believes that the steam train is in itself a unique period piece regardless of its origin. The large varied fleet of 30 locomotives built between 1874 and 1961 were purchased from Glasgow, Newcastle, and Leeds in England, and even Pennsylvania in the United States. They include steam and diesel locomotives. The labor required to maintain these amazing machines is never-ending. Cleaning out the boilers is just one of the many tasks performed by the volunteer workers. Thanks mainly to the hard work of the original owners, many locomotives and coaches were preserved and are still in working order today. Even trolley cars can be found working on the railway. Due to the severe nature of the terrain, locomotives that carry passengers are chosen by their age and size. The railway boasts a variety of preserved rolling stock. The industrial locomotives which spent their working lives on obscure sidings have not been forgotten. Several are in use today on the Keihley and Worth Valley, which we'll see later. All along the line, especially in spring, the railway hosts a number of weekend celebrations for rail fans and enthusiasts. Many of the historic steam locomotives are featured in all their power and glory. On a Saturday, early morning travelers gather on Haworth platform to greet the oldest locomotive on the railway, the Belrophon. Built in 1874 at the Haydock Foundry, it is an 060 well tank locomotive and is being assisted on the early train by number 30072, Southern Railways USA. We continue our adventure on England's famous Keihley and Worth Valley Railway. At Oakworth, engine number 30072 pulls in during a spring shower with the afternoon tea special to Oxenhope. Rain or shine, afternoon tea is not to be missed. What better way to enjoy this nostalgic English tradition than on a steam train? The railway keeps a precise timetable for all its trains and passengers. It's still raining as the train arrives in Oxenhope. Not even the wet English weather can dampen the spirit of the passengers. The departure to Haworth causes a great deal of interest. Locomotives almost outnumber the coaches, as a steam locomotive is joined by a British Rail diesel engine to power our train. This could only happen during a railroad enthusiast weekend. The engines do their train talk before departing. In other action on this busy railway, the Great Western Pannier tank thunders up the valley out of Keihley. The engine will double head, that is, join with another locomotive to pull the Oxenhope train. At Oakworth, number 31, named Hamburg, an ex-Manchester Ship Canal's 060 side tank, has been waiting patiently on the siding to join the front of the 1115 Keihley to Oxenhope train. The two locomotives are coupled and present a spectacular sight powering their way into the station at Oakworth. An engineer checks with the station master to get instructions for the trip. All aboard, and we leave the station for Oxenhope. Back at the yard in Haworth, one of the largest locomotives owned by the railway has been preparing to make its run. This giant World War II veteran, the USA, dwarfs the Pannier tank engine it's about to join in a double-headed run to Keihley. The sudden weather changes are well known in the Yorkshire valleys. A spring snow started to fall as the afternoon tea special arrives from Oakwood, providing a picturesque finale to our railway adventure on the Keihley and Worth Valley Railway.
In keeping with English tradition, afternoon tea is not to be missed, rain or shine. The afternoon tea special steams down the line thanks to the all-volunteer staff that services over 150,000 passengers a year. I'm Bernie Coppell. Join me on the next Railway Adventures Across Europe.
Rail Europe is your one-stop shop for European rail products.